Listen to the Vibes, hosted by Coyote Night. Listen in for some positivity and good times. The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I have here Mr. Rocky Singh Kandola. And
Hello.
how are you today, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me today.
Man, it's my pleasure. I know you've been through a lot through your life, and I want you to start off from the beginning, and we're going to get into your successes because I really think this is important for people to hear. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Definitely. So, as you said, my name is Rocky Singh Kandola. Starting at the beginning, my real name is Vikram. I've been called Rocky since I was a baby. And everybody thinks it's some crazy fighting story or something like that. And it's literally just my grandma. They're all from India. You know, they just moved to America, living in New York, and she didn't know English very well. And in my mom's stomach, I was rocking around a lot. So she started doing rock, rock, rock. And then the movie came out, I believe, in that year as well, '86, when I was born. And so just Rocky just stuck. And everybody from my family, everybody just calls me Rocky now. So Vikram Singh Kandola is the real one, but Rocky is what everybody knows. And so I was born in the Bronx, New York. My parents were first generation here from India. My father kind of was following his career path, which he's a physician and cardiologist. So he quickly moved the family down to the coast of Mississippi, away from all of our family and friends. In fact, it caused kind of like a big family type of rift. The fact that he just left like that, and kind of Indian communities are very like close knit. They want to stay around each other. They move across the world to be around each other. And he had different viewpoints on the world and things like that as well. So he moved us down south, and the South is a great area. Growing up as a kid, if you're like Indian like myself and my parents are first generation, you don't really get as much culture, I guess, in your culture. There's no like temple, gurdwara, what we call them. Not even really restaurants or other Indian families there. So we kind of quickly started to adapt to the lifestyle there, which was a lot of boating, a lot of on the water with friends, going out. And that really, our parents didn't really like that. Me and my father butted heads, quite a bit on that. And that's kind of what started me getting sent around the world to different boot camps, military schools, state schools, and everything. So it started, I guess I started the first one is when I was 11-ish, I got sent to India. That was kind of the first time I was sent away from my family to live alone. And to be honest, I kind of liked India at that age. Even I was 11 or 12, so I was definitely like, I miss my parents, I miss my family, I miss my friends, I miss doing the things I used to do. And this is like a pattern that developed my life later on as well. I learned to adapt really quick, or maybe naturally almost adapt pretty fast to like my environment and different places that I'm, moving in between. So I kind of fell into routines there, found friends, started playing cricket. I would, hop on buses and trains and travel across the country and scare everybody to death and end up at a tennis tournament, 10 hours away. There's all kind of stuff that I actually learned, at a young age about what I do now, which is a lot of traveling and, exploring cultures and peoples and things. It's crazy how people compare cultures and look at people different ways because of it. And the craziest part is like even my mind is trained to that sometimes. But then at the same time, good is good, bad is bad. But like in a different culture, servants, they had like servants, like little kids, slaves, and servants for all the families there. And the family I was with in particular kind of didn't treat the kid, very well. Like hit him a lot, scream at him a lot, didn't feed him right. And so I would sneak him out. I'll put him on a tennis bag on my shoulders and sneak him out. And me and him would go to the chicken market and just eat 2-3 kilograms of chicken by ourselves and run around and just be kids and enjoy ourselves. And um, it was weird, like, because my dad wanted to be away and kind of like a cultural experience, a semi-punishment. And I loved and learned so much from it, so much so that later on in life, I was drawn back to go to India and live again and explore again. I eventually started a business in India as well. So yeah, after I got back from there, I was back with my parents at home, and I started sneaking out my dad's car and talking back a lot, just being a little bit tough to deal with as a kid, as a young kid. And my parents had a brother and sister, so basically at a certain point they're like, we can't really deal with him anymore, we got to send him away. And they started, as a lot of parents do, looking around the internet, newspapers, friends for solutions to the problems that they feel like they can't solve right then, which translates to a kid many times. And he saw one ad about troubled teens, and if your teens are in trouble, um, this will restore and fix your family life, and your kids will listen to you again and love you. They'll be at a top class facility with jet skis and swimming pools and doctors and counselors and education professors and such, which couldn't be farther from the truth. These schools that I went to two of them in particular, called the Worldwide Association of Specialty Programs.
Mm-hmm.
Namely, the ones I went to were Casa by the Sea and Academy in Ivy Ridge. But it couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, in the education aspect of what they're educating us, the schools I went to turned out to be fraudulent as far as credibility from their state boards for education goes,
Mm-hmm.
translating to me not even having a high school diploma to this day. I have my college degree, which I kind of slid in there because I didn't find out about the school not having valid credibility and revoking the diplomas until I'd already started college for a couple of years. But that's the kind of obvious manipulations they put in people's face, or not even manipulation. That's just being shady, basically, lying. But on top of that, when you get to these schools, and my first time going to it, I think I was 12 or 13. My mom actually brought me to the first one, drove me in to Baja California, Ensenada, Mexico. And you pull up to these big four red walls. You go in to one room where you sit there for a second with your mom, and then you leave the back room and you go to the actual facility, and everything changes. It's crazy. The lights get dim, the air gets cool, the ground gets a little dirty. They take you in a small side room. They strip your clothes, take all your items, shave your head, start screaming at you, yelling at you, telling you like you'll be here for a long time, get used to it, toughen up, like here we go. And from there begins just a daily routine of manipulation, brainwashing, uh, everything, gaslighting. It's just a very crazy structured place. You couldn't communicate with the outside world. You couldn't communicate with the person next to you. You couldn't stand up, sit down, go to the restroom, anything at all without permission. The violence, the punishments were ridiculous. One time I got thrown out of my chair, kicked down the hallway, thrown on my stomach and my chin, and put in a corner with my hands and feet tied behind my back with a fat Mexican dude sitting on top of me, and only one hand, allowed to be let out every once in a while to have orange juice and rice. And a lot of the kids, and we all call each other survivors now. Paris Hilton actually shed a lot of light on it in her documentary "This Is Me." But we found each other on Facebook and groups and such now. And I said that to say that some of the stories that they have, and they might not be comfortable talking about it, and I would never, reveal their information, but are crazy, 10 times crazier than, what I'm telling you about that happened to me right now. So much so that there's kids that hung themselves and committed suicide there. All kind of sexual abuse and assaults, both on the boys' side and the girls' side, which we didn't even ever see the girls. There was another side of the campus. It's really, really crazy. I could go into for hours about the details of the place, and I'm actually writing a book about, kind of my childhood and my upbringing and what I've came to from it, and I'm going into heavy detail about those times, when I was there and how the structure of these programs actually look, and it's crazy. The craziest part to me is the fact that they're in operation right now as we're speaking on this podcast. There's still kids, going through it right this second.
That's awesome.
Which, yeah, it's horrible, man. And hopefully, what Paris Hilton is doing with hashtag Breaking Code Silence and the hashtag I See You Survivor, it'll start shedding more and more light on it. And at the end of the day, they operate legally in gray areas, and send contributions to presidential campaigns and so forth, and political and this and that. So at the end of the day, the biggest way to start changing is just to shed light on it. I don't believe that violence or taking it over is gonna ever was a good idea. Even though, and especially 5, 10 years ago, I was like, I want to go get these guys, and go blow it up or
Right,
something
right.
like that. But no, it's just shedding light, talking about it, and getting more and more people understanding that it's actually happening and they're changing it.
So when you were a teenager and before you got put into that, I mean, were you doing the typical, rebellious things that most kids do, or were you really that bad?
I don't know. When I got to the school, people were laughing at me for while I was there because they're like, "Oh, you've never tried this or that before? You never drank before?" I'm like, "Nah, I've never, I've never done any of that." But I was definitely, I was pretty smart for my age, and always have been like that. Especially I was in gifted classes, so I was like, I would talk back a lot and question things around me and want to do more than whatever I was like allowed to do. I want to do more than like there can't be a limit or a line like. And as soon as you say like, oh, you can't do this, then it's like, oh, okay, that's what I'm gonna go do. Like I want to figure out. I was driving at 11 and 12, and I didn't do anything. I wasn't like going like to do anything crazy. I would literally go to Taco Bell, pick up a friend, go down to the yacht club where the water is, and sit there and eat and talk and laugh and drive back home. That's how it started. Later on in life as a teenager, yeah, I definitely got into selling drugs, doing drugs, everything from robbing, getting robbed, getting shot at, shooting at, the craziest of the crazy. And that was kind of progression because, after I left the school in Mexico, it was boot camp again. It was military school. It was, a private school that, where I started really getting into, heavier drugs and kind of learning that I was a different person in society, around me. In Mississippi, I was very sheltered. In the boot camps, it was very diverse. In a small hometown private school in Alabama, like I realized quickly, like people see me as my color, very very fast down there, and they're most of the times down south. Back then, anyway, they just didn't understand what I was or who I was or where I came from. They would look at me and try to figure it out. And I got a lot of like, I guess shit for lack of a better word, like for that when I was in high school down there, from everyone from principals to peers and things like that. But I kind of learned from all that, and even though back then I was very violent, if someone said something about me, I would go one time in college, like literally not go to class and start driving around campus until I found him and saw him and walked straight up to him and just started, hitting him for calling me, a couple racial names. Nowadays, like I don't even run into people like that much anymore. I don't know. I think it's the energy thing, and that's kind of transitioning into moving past all that boot camp, military school stuff in high school, and getting to a point finally when I started seeing things differently and started not just wanting to lash out at authority and be around the worst of the worst and see something different for my life. And that kind of really kind of started on a path of leading up to where I am now. Because I mean, where I was going 10 years ago, even longer ago, that my parents, like they say when they hear these podcasts, like if you didn't go to these schools and you'd have broken every bone in your body and you might be dead. And I don't agree with that 100%, but I definitely do agree that I was on a path that would be very, very, very detrimental to just continue on forever. So,
Right.
yeah, it was bad back then.
Well, I've found from all my years that people that come out and lash out against other people for no good reason is because they have low esteem themselves. Um, because you got somebody that's trying to fit in and they think, okay, well, I have to, side with the racist people and then just be against people of other colors and cultures and things like that. It, even in my own peers or whatever, the white folks, you got grouped. You know what I mean? I wasn't a kicker. I wasn't a prep. I wasn't a jock. I was the loner heavy metal kid. And so I got picked on,
Yeah.
and all because I think people just they can't just be an individual. They they have no self-esteem. They got to fit in somewhere, and so they will go against the grain, so to speak. For the most part, a lot of people are really good people if you get to know them,
Yep. Definitely.
and
I
and
agree.
that's the thing. This whole society needs to stop and get to know each other for who they are. But enough of that. I'm getting off my soapbox.
No, I agree. It's aligned on the same thing. I agree with you 100%. It's so important. Even I mean that kind of ties everything I would even say in together. And that if we can all just learn humanity, like and learn to get closer to each other more, it would solve so many problems, so many small problems. That, especially like you're saying, like the way people view things. Like it's not necessarily that person actually views it like that or actually is racist. Like they probably have a lot of programming, a lot of people around them, and they're like, oh, this is the way to be this right way. When you slow down and talk to them one on one and break it down and their beliefs and their fears, it's usually even they see like, oh, well, I'm not really afraid of that or don't like that. I just this is the way it is kind of thing. I've seen that a lot even especially in the South. And as I've grown up, I've seen it more with people that are close to my family kind of verbalize this stuff versus like back when I was younger, people like that were around our family like would literally come to me like, Rocky, you got to choose a side one day. Like there's a war coming, there's a revolution coming. Like, and as a kid, I'm like, oh gosh, really? Like,
I picked the side of humanity. I want to know people, I want to like you because you're a good person. I don't want to be part of that group just because. There's even people that were in the circle of friends that I had. I didn't like them just because they were jerks. I
yeah,
don't care if we had the same, likes and dislikes as far as music and dress and things like that. You are a jerk, then, screw you.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
diversity, man, that people need to learn that. That's why most of my friends are, they're all over the spectrum. You know, I even like people that like the Houston Texans. So, what can I say? I'm teasing.
I toss that one in there.
I had to toss it in there. I mean, my kids they're half Hispanic. Their first mama was, you know, from the valley part of Texas.
Cool.
Her family's from Mexico. Um, so I've tried to instill in them, hey, you like people just because you like them. Don't feel like you have to just date one certain group, or, you got to only hang out with this kind of, friends and stuff. You can learn a lot from other people is what I'm trying to say.
I agree. That's really cool that you teaching that. I feel like whenever if I had kids, I'd definitely want them to understand that as well.
Oh yeah. So, and you are who you are, and people have to accept you for that.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
let's move on.
All right.
I've gotten back on the soapbox again, but I
All good.
mean, you got into a lot of trouble and did a lot of things that you shouldn't have done, and yet you have changed your life. Now, what let's put you on that path right now.
Got it. Yes, I mean, so that path has been a journey. It's been up and down. It's been back and forth. I've taken backward steps. But I would say I started that journey properly about 7, 8 years ago now. I, quick rewind, when I, got out of all those other schools, I went to one more where I graduated from. I was actually kidnapped in the ankles and cuffs and escorted by two big ass guys all the way up to the border of Canada and New York, and which is the same program as the Mexico one in a different place. That whole other story, craziness there, basically the same as the Mexico story. But eventually I graduated high school from there with the fake diploma that I had, and started college. And as you can imagine, I was like, had a chip on my shoulder, I was against the world. No one could tell me anything. I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do. And I dove headfirst into selling, doing drugs, partying, women, fraternities, late nights, stealing, robbing, everything and anything you can imagine, that lifestyle. And very quickly ended up in prison for it. Eventually for a distribution of controlled substances charge in Alabama. Ended up serving a little bit of time in jail, a couple of years in prison, house arrest, and more. The turning point didn't come anytime between that. Okay, and in fact, after I got out of prison, I kind of got back in the same lifestyle. Um, and then one day, my father, who sent me off to all these schools as a kid, came to me and said, "You're not living at home. You're not really asking for much money anymore. Um, maybe you should get out of here. Maybe you should just go try something else." And it was November 4th, probably 2011-ish. And I decided the next day, and I was like, something, a better energy, a higher energy came to me and just helped me make that decision. Because I don't remember pondering it too much. I remember I was just like, okay. And I was very set. I had my identity built again. I had my circle, people I was hustling with, people I was partying with, my girlfriends and my car and my place. Like everything was good. And I wasn't in any trouble or anything. I was done probation finally. I actually had an assault case where I was missing half my teeth, and I got my teeth back. And I was like, you know what? Let me just go try something else. And I left it all behind. Um, Friends, girlfriends, money, the deals I was doing right then. I even gave my dad a bottle of like 50 to 100, like, because I was selling pills at that time, like Oxycontin, like 50s or something, like worth like a couple $1,000s. And I was like, just leaving it. And I was like, made one decision. I was like, I'm not gonna go back into that selling lifestyle again. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what's in front of me, but I don't want to sell anymore. And I went to India. and I lived a clean life for a while. And eventually, the spark came with me to do more and do something else, and make a business, do something with myself, start something, create something. I'd always been pretty business minded. Like as a kid, I was a kid that did lemonade stands and cut grass and sold baseball cards. And then eventually, as soon as school started, I was selling weed very quickly. And in college, I was selling weed and drugs and hats and Jordans and shoes and jerseys and colognes and perfume, anything. That's how I would do business basically back then. But in prison, I made a business plan for the hair and a couple others. And when I was, had this opportunity to be in India, all of a sudden, I was looking for business in India actually, and couldn't really make things work the way I wanted to. And the hair idea, one-page business plan written in an Alabama State prison, um, came into my hands again. And I started researching, visiting manufacturers, visiting middlemen and vendors and hair markets and temples. Spent about, almost a year in India, and that's when my first transition really was. I say it's that whole year, that first choice to go, and then that whole time I was there, in the beginnings of building this company. I was still taking backward steps, drinking a little too much here and there, smoking weed, pills every once in a while, but I was motivated. I was teaching tennis on the side. I was doing the business every day that I could, and there's a couple of moments in there. I actually ended up getting married. My now ex-wife left at a certain time, and that's kind of when I changed my life once again. I stopped eating meat. I stopped listening to music and television, movies. Really rid my life of all the small distractions of people that I had around me from still, that who even to this day I love them, but I just what they're doing and what I'm doing is not conducive to anything of us spending time together. Like
Mhm.
we're on different paths basically, and I try to motivate them and support them, but I don't want to spend too much time around them. I am a big believer in the people you spend your time around, really help you dictate, where you're going to be. And we can choose those things. We can definitely control, where we decide to give our energy to. And I feel like I always want to be around people that are at the very least semi-aligned, on the things and the path that I am with business, with spirituality, with life, with, family, friends, everything. And I find that when you have that in you, you kind of start to attract that anyway. So it all kind of works out. But I made a lot of those big decisions then, and I was lonely and nervous and worried and wondering how I'm going to meet friends. But I slowly started to go to meditation centers and yoga studios, and I'd find friendship and conversation and growth slowly from every single place I went to, and without like an attached sense, just a very casual like learning from each other and growing there. And it's crazy how we try to separate personal life and business life and how connected those two are as
Right.
entrepreneurs because yeah, then as well, the more I've grown as a person, the more my business grows. And I constantly work at it. I work my ass off, honestly, 24/7. I'm on the business, and I've incorporated it into my life now to where I can travel, enjoy myself, go out and about, and still handle the business I need to handle with the team that I'm blessed to have as well. So it's all working out. We're steady growing and scaling. The name of the company is Maiden India. We're on all social media. Everything is very easy to find us. And my direct website, rockykandola.com, it's all linked on there as well. We're doing a lot of big things in the industry as far as being able to provide small businesses who know about the industry and then those who don't as well to be able to step in and work with a product that is universal, worldwide, used all over the place, and provide them the transparency, the tools, the resources, and the product that actually create a business and go forward with it from there. We kind of everyone on the team kind of really knows what the mission is as far as really being connected with clientele, and delivering high value and over time. So that's kind of how I've built it and how we all kind of work together to provide that for everybody.
Okay, I want to take a little step back. I got a couple of things I'd like for you to focus on.
Okay.
One, and I have a daily devotional that I do, um, and I've emphasized that sometimes you have to sacrifice certain things in your life in order to get ahead. One of those that you mentioned was the friends. And I know there was a lot of people that was very, very difficult for me to separate myself from because we've been friends for, 30 years or more. And it was a very difficult decision, but one that was very necessary. How difficult was it for you and how did you handle it?
Man, that was one of the most difficult things. I still have a problem with like letting new friends go these days. People I met and like I'm an Aquarius. I get very attached very easily to the people that I love, you know. And I had the same story, 25, 27 years friends. And I mean, what's crazy is I just was experiencing this not even a month ago with a friend of mine from New York, a girl that I've been friends with for 17 years almost, and had to just stop talking to her. You know, she's just deteriorating and mentally and as a person and putting things in her body that's, you know, taking back and not, and her mind, I know her mind isn't right and she's not meaning the things she says, but have to let go of it. And that was tough. It just doesn't feel good. For me, it's very uncomfortable. I feel like the backbone of me is like loyalty, and I should always be there to help people when they're falling and guide them. But and that's a good thing, I believe still. But there's a level and a limit, and I think that level and limit comes when it affects your energy and your
Hmm.
time so much so that, um, you know, like your body tells you like, hey, you know, you might need a little bit of time away from this lifestyle, these people, what's going on, you know, or even just the energy of someone else that's that heavy, you know, like all the time. My best friends from growing up, you know, everybody that came to my wedding when I did get married, we barely even talk anymore, you know, rarely do. And some of us don't at all. Some of them I've let go of totally. A couple of them ended up in fights, you know, like one a fist fight, another one, really, really hurtful words exchanged back and forth. However, every single person I'm speaking of, except the recent girl, now we have spoke. We have, you know, had friendly terms. I love you, bro. I love you too, bro. You know, and it's understood that we're on different paths. It's almost said without being understood without being said. You know, like I stepped back for 2 years until, you know, decided to say, hey, you know, I hope you're doing well. You know, and it's not that I cut short of a talk or a visit, but it's almost like I make it kind of clear, like, no, I don't really have time to meet up right now. It's not, I don't think it's avoiding at all. I think it's understanding yourself and where people are as well. And just for me, I'm a convicted felon. I don't want to be around someone that's still hustling and has dope at the crib or their car and might, it's not comfortable for me. I'm not scared or worried like that. It's just, I'm not worried about myself and not trusting myself to go back into it. I just don't want to be around it. I spent a lot of time around that, and the feeling of it and looking over your shoulder and being worried about cops and other people and this and that. I just don't want to be around it anymore, you know, just I don't knock it. You know, I have a friend that from prison that still does the same things. And I love him the same. I don't feel like he's doing the best thing he could with his life, you know what I mean? But
Sure.
um, I kind of try to separate it. I just don't make it clear that I don't want to be around that. And it's tough. It's very tough. I've experimented, went back and forth for a while in the very beginnings of doing this, and that's not a good thing to do, in my opinion. I didn't do it the right way. It just kind of bothers everybody a little bit more. It's best to make a clean cut, step back, take your time, and move on for then. And trust in your heart that, you know, if you guys are the couple, whatever it is, that are really good with each other and really love each other as people, then you'll cross again. It'll be friendly. Understanding will be understood on both sides. People get it, you know.
Yeah, I still try to leave a door open to if they change their life, they want to turn their life around and they're more positive minded. Okay, well then we can rekindle the friendship. And until then, I think it's best that we stay away from each other because I don't need to go back to that same old that I was doing before either. You know, alcohol and drugs ruin my health, ruin relationships. I could have probably done a lot more when I was younger if I hadn't been so focused on partying and going out and, finding women and doing all this craziness. And yeah, it sounds like fun. And then you watch movies and TV and they make it out like, oh, it's so great. You go out and you party and have a good time. I mean, how many reality shows you see out there of these, kids that, they're living in a home and, with all these other people that are all they're doing is partying. Oh, they're having such a great time. But are they? You have to ask them, are you really?
And I can tell you straight up, you probably know as well, most of those people really aren't. Whether they say they are, they're not. Most of them have a lot going on, and they're even, especially the ones that are partying daily, like that stuff, it builds up. And if you're drinking 5 times a week or partying 3, 4 times a week, heavy, like your mind, your body, the way you process things, like your emotions, they're all over the place. You know, like it's not good. And what's
Sure.
sad, it kind of transitions to what I was gonna say about like the fact that we're doing this and talking, like, I love that because I think that's needed more and more and more. And I want to
Mhm.
do it more and more and speak to hopefully kids, one day too. Because right now, especially younger generations, their role models and the people that they spend the most time listening to, a lot of them are these reality shows, these like rappers and
Mhm.
artists and dancers that I don't think they're bad people at all, but the media and how they're represented like in front of your eyes is not something that we want to subconsciously or even especially consciously like put in young kids' heads that this is glam, this is fame, this is how you make it, this is when you make it, this is what it is, this is what you need to reach and strive for. Like, and a lot of those people that I mentioned, the dancers and actors and rappers, like they do a lot of really really good things that people should strive for, but those aren't what people pay attention to or what gets put out there or talked about, sadly. So yeah, I hope to one day be able to like talk and reach kids and just at least put them on a different set of mindset. Like, hey, there's a different way to think, and there's different things you can do if you just change your mind a little bit on it.
Well, I was, the headbanger back in school, and I would emulate the same thing that these guys were doing in the music videos and singing in their songs. I'm drinking all night and, you know, out with this girl and, doing all driving fast cars, blah, 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 blah. And now that those days are behind them, and they've had to go through rehab. They've gone through strokes and things like that because of that hard, fast living. And like, you know what? I was an idiot. And they had to change their ways or they were going to die. They were losing everything. And that's unfortunate because I'm seeing the generations behind me doing those same things. It's just a different genre of music and different lifestyle as far as oh, now they're gangster, doing the rap and stuff like that or what have you. It's not all as glamorous as people think it is. Eventually, one day, it's going to catch up to you. I was 36 years old when I had a heart attack. That's how much drinking and drugs that I did. That was stupid. I am by no means am I glorifying it or bragging about it. Those are things I wish now I could go back and change. But now is now. That was then. You just have to learn and move on. But you had mentioned meditating. That was something else that I wanted to emphasize on with people in my daily devotions. Is getting away and meditating is a very, very essential part of becoming a success. So go on with your story.
Yeah, it's so important. That's something that I talk about a lot. Is like the way I did it was yeah, it almost happened unconsciously for me, but I understand it and I can like process it now, which is like stepping back from all the distractions around you, if you're people, if you're friends, of anyone in your ears about decisions you're making, of media, of everything, maybe going to nature and really just kind of learning about how you think and how you are when you're quiet and you're sitting there. And people think meditation is like totally clearing your mind. And what I'm learning more and more, it's not really just totally clearing your mind. It's just kind of letting your mind be at ease and maybe even wander a little bit. And this morning is actually the first morning that I have meditated in a while. I used to do it every morning, and I really want to get back to that like right away again because I noticed it today, like the difference. I woke up, did some push-ups, did some sit-ups, and meditated. Maybe even I think it was probably 10 minutes of meditation at the very most, at the very most. But just my morning so far, my day so far, I don't know what it is. I can feel it in me. I can feel my body. I can feel when I'm driving the car, when I'm looking at the sun, when like even when I'm talking to my girl, like I feel better. Like I just feel good. It was like almost like a situation earlier today, like where I was like kind of not in an argument, but like just kind of like feeling funny about something between me and her, and like I was like thinking, I was like, should I just get upset? Like no, like I was just breathing earlier, and I almost flashed back to when I was sitting on the ground, folding my legs, and I was like, oh right, just like breathe for a second, just chill, just like it's really like you're overthinking, that's all it is. And that kind of stuff, like it's game changers if you can like learn. If you imagine like if every time you had a bad day or a bad minute in a day, you could just close your eyes and remember that you meditated for 10 minutes, and every one of those minutes of meditation like gets you one automatic like different outcome in any situation you're in. Like, and that's kind of the way it works for me now. Like I realize when I feed myself, my ears, my eyes, with information, with knowledge, with positivity, with good things, that it's magic starts to happen around me in small areas. And it's so subtle and like you can't even almost verbalize and articulate it. but it's there, and it's not something weird or something, you know, transcendental that we can't have. Like I know it to be like it's right there. You're putting that energy and that love into it like heavily, and treating yourself, you know, like you know yourself, and you bring that all into you. So meditating is huge. One of my good friends, Sean, that's kind of a light worker, a healer, lives in Southeast Asia, travels around. When my ex-wife first left the first time, he came and stayed with me for a little bit of time in my first place in LA. And he taught me a lot without teaching me anything, without trying to teach me anything. He literally just lived this lifestyle around me. And this is the kind of person we walk into a Vegas casino on a night we're out and blazered up and with a beer in our hand, and he'll stop in the middle of Vegas floor, close his eyes, and stand there and meditate for 10 minutes, like eyes closed, back straight, shoulder up. And I used to hate it at first, so it would annoy me. And I was like, what are you doing, bro? Like, come on. He wouldn't say anything, he'd just stay there. And now I realize like he wasn't really trying to teach me. He was just like, this is how I live, this is how I am, and this is how I can do it any time, and just look at it. If you want to do it, do it. He never even tried to get me to actually do anything. But me learning meditation, I started going to classes after that as well. Has been amazing. During quarantine, um, I thought I was going crazy because I was all alone. I was meditating. I was kind of talking to myself, and I was like crying and pulling my hair. But I realized that was kind of a form of meditation that at that point in time for me, I kind of really needed. And I didn't reach out to friends and family and start calling everybody. I did look for counselors, and I didn't find anybody to talk to. So I started listening to podcasts and YouTube videos a lot again at that time. And that's a very, very strong form of meditation right there. I believe. In the classes, I learned about how to like chant and hum and like um, you know, different kind of actual stuff where they talk to you and they kind of engage your senses with lighting and sound and things like that. And that's very, very, very helpful as well. And I'm getting to the stage now, like I did this morning, where I can finally try to like make a time for it and sit down and do it alone. Like, and when I say it, like a meditation in like the traditional sense of sitting there, crossing your legs and letting your mind kind of relax, versus driving or listening to a podcast or anything else. And it's powerful. That in combination of yoga, ridding distractions, you're definitely gearing your entire life and body and business and mind for a beautiful change.
You need a distraction away from the rest of the world for, at least a short amount of time anyway.
Yeah,
But
even a small amount of time daily helps.
exactly. In meditation, to me, it's focusing in on positive things and helping you to strive towards your goals. So yeah, I recommend that everyone take, even if it's 10 minutes out of your day, even if it's just before you go to bed or before you get up in the morning, take some time and focus in on what do I need to do today and what's the positive path to get there. You have to remind yourself, you have to think good thoughts, you have to say good words, and you have to take good actions. To me, that's success. But
Agreed.
But anyway, you've started your business, you're online, you're doing all these things. So to get a little bit more in depth in what you're doing.
Yeah, so like I was saying, here in Maiden India, we cater to business individuals, salons, startup distributors. That girl doing hair in the back of her house or in her salon, anybody and everybody. And we like to provide these people solid, transparent, reliable products consistently over time, as well as a team that's there to back them, inform them, and make sure they can have their orders and their clients taken care of. So in that essence, it's simple, but the hair game is a very, very crazy deep industry that's very, very important to people worldwide. Hair is huge. I think there's a scientific thing in the CIA or FBI that say that the easiest way to change your looks immediately is by changing hair, facial hair, and hair in your head. And in many societies, hair is there for all kind of traditional reasons, religious reasons. There's all kind of back and forth on it. In India, they cut their hair, they tonsure it. In a certain religion, it's called Lord Venakaswaran. It's a South Indian Hindu god, and people take a pilgrimage. 300,000 people a month take a pilgrimage to different temples to go tonsure their hair and offer it as a sacrifice to their respective gods. And that's where we source directly from the temples, raw human hair that's been cut. From there, we process it, we clean it. We don't use any chemicals or anything. We just use steam and hand labor to clean it and to make it a turnkey product ready for sale and ready for use in America. Over here, we have a showroom in Beverly Hills now where we meet our clients, by appointment 6 days a week. Online and on the phones, we're available 24/7. The team, I've always started a business, have been done it very untraditionally against the advice of a lot of people on almost every move I've made. But it's all worked out. I've had my ups and downs. I've made mistakes, big $20,000 mistakes, and even with personnel and stuff like that. But the team I have in place now, we're tight knit. It consists of Miranda, a friend of mine from college, actually, that when I was assaulted, she used to bring my notes to me and help me out a lot. She's been through quite a few things herself, in her life, and I love working with people that aren't polished, perfect, and pretty. We all have rough edges. We all need our community and our group in here in Maiden India to talk and flow with each other and to find meaning in work, and at the same time to be receiving valuable income from that work. And that's kind of what it is now. Miranda works, as a systems coordinator, does office stuff, shipping samples, direct, interaction with clients. Aquarius, she's been with me for a couple of years now as well. She was actually a client at first that met me at a hair show. She now works here directly with me in the showroom in Beverly Hills, learning everything from packaging to the business to helping her start another business as well. My girlfriend Trina actually works on our team as well. She's our social media manager and our creative director, which is my biggest area of lacking. I'm very bad at making colors, putting together on the screen, and making the designs look pretty and nice. I'm more like logistics, numbers, sales, strategy, marketing, things like that. But we all kind of work together very well. We're actually for our first time meeting in person this weekend, like at a company like type of like get together. I'm trying not to structure like in a corporate sense and have like a total routine, but there are like some games and like some like group building type of stuff I want us to do because I know the entire team individually, but they don't know each other as well as I want them to. And I realize that's important. And I think that a lot of small startups don't focus on that a lot. They want to focus on the bottom line, the numbers, which has to be there for a business to run. I understand, but building your team and the groups and giving everyone those ideas and chances to flourish and grow together really allows. I think it will allow us definitely to scale in a way that I didn't even imagine. Because instead of one person, having everything controlled and running all the gears, there's four minds and brains and hearts and emotions and souls and personalities and lives blending together, putting into new ideas. So I'm really excited about, where we're going in the future with this. My girlfriend and I were actually working very close on creating a class. She does, courses and classes and coaching and healing and training and writing. So we're working on making a class to help people start hair businesses because so many people need help in starting it. Miranda, she's working on a nonprofit for our company as well. We'll be catering directly to cancer survivors that need hair, in an industry that still sadly is taking advantage of these people. So there's a lot of exciting things on the horizon that we're kind of rolling out and bringing to all the people we know.
So you just deal with hair itself. You don't deal with like hair products like shampoos and things like that, or you do that as well?
Not as much. I do a little bit, and the problem with that is there's so many hair products out there, and there's so many different reviews on them. I haven't found something, and I'm kind of OCD that everyone likes. So like I kind of don't like to. And a lot of brands send their stuff to me to sell for them. I just don't really like putting my stamp of approval on something until I have like at least almost everyone tell me this is the one, this is the one. So I have a couple formulations I've made that I kind of roll out as like testers and give to people. And then if someone likes them, I'll kind of say, okay, I can make a deal with you and produce this, and as long as it's a wholesale amount.
Okay, well, me and you need to talk then, because
Okay.
I have like the worst hair in the world. Everybody tells me I have goat hair.
Go ahead.
I mean, I've got the curly, I've got the
Okay,
wavy,
got it. Yeah.
I've got the dry and greasy and stringy, and I mean, just it's all over the place. In fact, if you've taken hair from every type of head in the world and decided to make my hair, that's the way I am. So
Sounds like you need like a keratin treatment, like a deep leave-in or something like that. Maybe you could knock all that out. But these
see, okay, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
right, yeah.
the hair treatments that a lot of like black people use to straighten out their hair and stuff. That's how I'm able to straighten out my hair
Like
but
perm? Like,
yeah, like a perm, exactly.
got it, got it.
That's the only way I can straighten it out. I've tried everything under the sun and nothing
Yeah.
ever works for me. So I need help, help.
And definitely get a custom wig created for you. You can just throw on over all that. It'll be straight every time.
I need something. I have such a mixed culture in my background because I mean, part of my family's Native American, and then we have European, Irish, German, Cuban. I mean, they're all mixed in there, and so I guess my hair ended up getting the worst of the DNA from all of them.
Oh, it's funny.
But if you do stuff like that, I know the women that listen to this, they're gonna be interested. They're like, oh, if you know something that can help my hair, then they're gonna want to get in contact with you. So I'm definitely going to put the in the description your website so people can go there and if they have questions or if they're just interested in what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I actually have one of the hemp CBD shampoos and conditioner on the website as well. And I have a lot of like custom product formulations and lace closures, frontals, wigs, bundles, all that as well. So K-tips, I-tips, tape-ins, clip-ins, whatever they need, I have got them covered.
Sweet. Maybe I just shave my head and you send me a whole new set of hair.
Yeah, you don't have to shave it either, but I can send you a whole new set just like that. You can get you braided up and sewed in. Like,
Maybe I'll just fly out to LA and say, go to town, man, go to town.
oh, definitely, man, come visit us. We're right here in Beverly Hills. Come see us anytime.
Or you
I'll
could
have you out here.
come on out here to Austin.
Yeah, actually, Austin, Houston, and Dallas are really amazing markets, and I've been there sometime. I'm not sure if Austin I've been to. I know I've been to Houston and Dallas a couple times. I think I went to Austin as a kid one time, but I love Texas. You guys have a vibrant, cool, like hip culture out there. I love it.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm partial to Texas, so
Yeah.
I'm a little prejudiced when it comes to that.
as I believe all Texans are. So
Hey, hey, no place but Texas, man. No place
exactly.
but Texas. And that you can't find hardly anywhere else in the country a Whataburger. So I couldn't move out of
We
Texas.
we got we got our Whataburger in Alabama. I'd spend a good couple 4 a.m.s getting the triple monster burger and
Yeah.
the chicken with the honey on it. Like I remember that.
So, and I hear that Tennessee's getting a new one.
Nice.
So I guess I can visit out there. So what else you got going on?
Man, I'm actually currently writing 2 books. One of them should be coming out here in the next couple weeks. It's a compilation of my journals from prison to rehab to a couple of different times and some illustrations. And I'm kind of releasing it in preparation for the next book I have coming out, which is like my history of my past and making it to where I have now. All the stuff as a kid, and I kind of want it to be able to help people not only be inspirational and motivational, but also in a business sense, help one any business and two specifically let you understand what it took to become a hair, vendor the way I am now. So I'm really hoping to get out there and help a lot of people. And the Meditations of a Prisoner, which is the one coming out earlier, is kind of just like a prequel almost to it. Like here's the backstory, the beginning, kind of the way it was before almost. And the book's going to kind of dive into some details and get into how actually difficult it is. It took me 10 years to get where I'm sitting right now. Probably took me my whole life really, but it took 7, 8 years of conscious leading this direction to get where I am now. And now that I know that, I want to shorten that timeline and just make more progress every year. So the books are a big part of it. They help me put it on paper, and I hope they can help others. And then I want to start speaking around the country, in different countries. And then just it's business. I love the game of business. I love the journey of it. I just bought a rental property in Florida, and I'm learning how to manage that and rent it out as a vacation home now. Hopefully, I'll be increasing the nonprofit company as well as my course that's coming out soon. In combination with hopefully the rest of my team. Kind of Aquarius wants to do like a towel for hair. Brandon's holding the nonprofit. Trina has ideas come to her every 10 seconds, and I keep telling her like, write it down, man. Let's start putting some of these in action. So, um, everything and anything, I love going with the flow. I'm not trying to control it too much, and seeing where this beautiful journey leads and keeps going on it.
And one thing I try to tell people is discomfort seems to bring forth a lot of success. And what I mean by that is, you know, how easy it is, like, especially if you have a family business or something like that, it's easy just to, you know, just slide right on in there, take over, or, you know, you got a job out of high school and you just stick it out, or, you know, you come complacent in wherever you're at. It's, you know, okay, I can do this. Those people that go outside that box, outside that norm, that really take a chance, and they run into the discomfort, they into, you know, you said you've made a lot of mistakes. You got to allow yourself to make mistakes too.
Exactly.
That's another thing people don't want to do. They're afraid to make mistakes, they're afraid of ridicule, they're afraid of failure, instead of, let's take a chance. You
Yeah.
took a chance,
Yeah.
and look where you're at now, and you're getting more and more every day, more
Exactly.
success. Yeah.
Exactly. It's all about taking it, taking that risk. It's definitely a risk. I mean, Miranda recently quit her job, and that was a big risk, and she's very nervous. She's like, oh, this and that. And I'm like, you know what? Like, you took the big step. You made it. You took the risk. Not most, but many people don't take the risk even.
Mhm.
And now she's getting scared and worried, and that's like where I come into play is like I'm working with her. Um, I'm the CEO of the company that she's working with. So I'm like, I coach her, I help her, I talk when I can, I send her messages. And even when I started to fall off in that a little bit, and she kind of came to me, she's like, things aren't going as smooth anymore. Like we need to be connected. And it taught me a lesson. I was like, this is this is actually the business. It's like when these teams in the background are connected and they know each other, respect each other, trust each other, lean on each other, things run so smoothly. And you build that, all in the beginning, starting with taking that risk, taking that chance.
Yeah.
So my brother actually recently went from working for a big bank to working for a startup company. I was so happy for him because I know that you're taking less pay, maybe you're working weirder hours, but you're doing something you want to do. You're doing something where you chose to do it. You have the ability to do what you want to do in it and grow and learn and everything. And
Sure.
that's super, 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 super important.
So one more thing before we end here. Um, and I know I've said that I wished I could go back and kind of grab my old self and say, hey, what are you doing? But if you were to go back and talk to yourself when you were younger, would you actually change everything, or would you gone through what you've gone through so you can, you know, taking those lumps and be who you are now and be able to help others that have gone through difficulties?
Yeah, it's such a tough question, man, because just as you stated it, like I want to help other people not have to face these difficulties, not have to face these traumas, abuses, problems, times, self-inflicted, stuff. Um, which is where it's like so weird for me to even say it like that. I believe both in the same hand. I want to help, but I also believe that for me personally, I had to go through every single one of those things. In fact, I remember answering this before, and I said that um, in reality, the only thing I really, really regret that I wish that I could change or do differently or whatever you want to call it would be simply not worrying in so much every single time I was facing something crazy, traumatic, almost like life ending. Um, that's such a hard thing to do it when you're in it, right? You're worried, you're scared, you're fearful, this and that. You cry, you stress, you're taking years away from the life almost, by stressing your body so much internally and externally. I just wish I didn't do that so much. And I now have to remind myself, remember, every time you get worried and feel weird, that like, remember, it always goes away. It always goes away, and whatever that you were worried about, whether no matter how horrible it is, somehow makes sense in a different, bigger, better, or just alternative way a little bit down the road. It's usually not that far down the road, just a little bit down the road, and you see it, for what it is differently, and it's okay. And it's not something that you should worry about in the moment when you start realizing that as a pattern. That's the biggest thing. And then for the business, I would just say, ooh, Rocky, put these systems together in the beginning versus 4 years into the business. So,
Hey, you know, you can't be afraid to make mistakes.
yeah,
Got to take those steps, man. Then you learn. Learn from the mistakes. That's the big thing. Learn from mistakes.
definitely. 100%.
Thank you, Rocky. I appreciate your time, man. And
Definitely.
I'm sorry you had to go through what you had to go through, but if it's made you the fine young man you are today, well, I'm glad to meet you.
Thank you. I'm very glad to meet you as well and honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much, and I wish you all the success in the world. I really do.
You as well. Thank you so much.
And come see me when you come to Austin.
100%. I'm gonna look you up. I'm gonna come to Austin, see a rodeo, and I guess have a beer or something. What was that? Texas, right? Beer and rodeo.
Well, I mean that's a Lone Star beer is what we're kind
Lone
of known
Star. That's
for,
right.
but I'll just have the unsweet tea.
Unsweet. Oh yeah, the sweet tea in Texas. Yes, gotta try the sweet tea in Texas.
Yeah, Whataburger tea, that's the best. So
Whataburger it is. Awesome.
yeah, they should really pay me for all the endorsements that I do on this show.
You should maybe reach out to them.
Actually, I have talked to them, and after all this pandemic is over with, they did tell me they were going to put me in a commercial. So,
Wow, that is awesome.
yes, thank
Congrats,
you.
that is awesome. You got to send me that whenever you get it.
When it happens, I will definitely do that.
Awesome. Awesome.
And I also want to thank everybody that's joined us and, continue to support the channel. Without you, we wouldn't be here where we're at right now. Till the next time, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Rocky.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network and on Instagram at The Vibes Broadcast.